Welcome to the FSB York and North Yorkshire podcast. All roads lead to business support and, of course, to York and North Yorkshire. Welcome to the York and North Yorkshire FSB podcast series supported by City of York Council's Economic Growth team. We know that many small businesses and the self-employed are on an ever-twisting, unnerving and uncomfortable road, and we're here to smooth out those bumps and turns with expert advice, insight and inspiration. The FSB are experts in business since 1974 and are the UK's #1 support organisation for the self-employed and small business owners. Let us help you achieve your ambitions. To talk to us about membership, go to www.fsb.org.uk/join us, and for more information about support from City of York Council's Economic Growth Managers, go to www.york.gov.uk. I'm Carolyn Frank, FSB's Development Manager for York and North Yorkshire, and I've invited Andrea Morrison to our podcast today. Andrea is a transformational coach, TEDx speaker and columnist. She's also the area volunteer for the FSB, and she enables ambitious businesses to succeed through freeing the innate potential of their people. She believes that by learning more about our own psychology, we can reach our potential and live a more balanced life. And today she's going to talk to us about how we can overcome imposter syndrome. So, hi Andrea, thanks so much for joining us. Tell me more about you and your business and a little bit more about how we can help small businesses in York and North Yorkshire.
Yeah, well, hi, Carolyn. Thank you for inviting me here today. And yes, I help small businesses by really focusing on their people and them. And what I find when I work with small businesses is that they know what to do, but for some reason, they're either not doing it or they're coming up against barriers which are really internal to them rather than external barriers. And so I help them overcome those barriers to growth. Now, it could be something like imposter syndrome, but after the last few years, it's also stress, it's overwhelm, it's worry, it's fear, it's not really knowing where to go and not having that clarity in what direction to take your business in. And that can be a very difficult place for businesses to be in because they feel very stuck and, quite despondent really about what the future holds.
Absolutely, and we hear that from business owners a lot. We hear that they worry alone, they don't reach out for support and so on. And those barriers to growth and the overwhelm and stress that you've mentioned are unfortunately all too common. Just looking specifically at imposter syndrome, why is imposter syndrome so common amongst small business owners? Because we know they're doing great things. We see that every day, day in, day out at the FSB. So why do they fall into that trap of imposter syndrome and feeling they're not good enough, their business isn't good enough?
I think it stems from where businesses really come from, or a lot of small businesses come from. The businesses that I talk to have almost fallen into being a small business. They've either been made redundant or they're bringing up a family and they haven't been able to go back to work full time. And so they start their businesses alongside something else. And it's almost like a stopgap until something else better comes along. So they often don't consider themselves to be a proper business. So when they see business support or business funding, they think, well, that's not really for me. And they deselect out of it before they've even inquired as to whether they're eligible or not. And I think that's a real shame. And I think as soon as they overcome this particular idea, the doors kind of start opening for them. Because they start to see themselves as, oh yeah, actually, I am a proper business because I'm just the same as that business over there. And that's why kind of networking and being in contact and not worrying alone is so important, because you do then come into contact with other businesses and you think, oh, they're just like me and I can do all of this stuff.
I think we see that light bulb moment quite often at our events and when we come into contact with FSB members, because they find that tribe of like-minded people in the FSB, it's specifically for the self-employed, for small business owners, and they find people like them. And that's right, isn't it? So we need more role models, perhaps, to help small businesses overcome that imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. And what a business doesn't look the same for every single business. Like every business is so unique. And I think, yes, when we come together, we can then see that diversity and that whole range of different things that people are doing. But I think so often, especially in like the media and amongst small businesses that aren't perhaps so connected with other businesses, they think, oh, a business is, they have an office, or they have lots of staff, or they only do this kind of industry or provide that kind of service. And they don't identify themselves with that because that's the image that is often portrayed. And I think it's about getting across to businesses that, yes, you're a business too. And if you're in service, or you have a product or whatever, if you're doing something and you're getting paid, the chances are you're actually a business. So come along and just enrich the whole business community. And instead of, believing innocently, it's without any judgment at all, that you're not a proper business, because you really are a proper business.
We always say to our members, don't worry alone, reach out, find your tribe, find your business community. And I think that's a really great piece of advice for people who want to overcome that imposter syndrome. And as you say, when people unlock that in their mind, we see their businesses thrive and grow, or improve or fit better around their working lifestyle. There's far too many harmful stereotypes about what a small business is. And one of my jobs as the development manager at FSB is to get that understanding across to policymakers as well, so they understand what a small business really is. And the answer is it can be anything that the owner wants it to be. And so that imposter syndrome has no place here for small businesses.
Absolutely. And on a personal level, it's about us individually seeing that the thoughts and ideas that we have about business are out of date and they're historic, and they are founded on what we see in the media and things like that. And it's about letting all of that go and enabling our businesses to be what they need to be, and creating our own definition of business, individually creating our own definition of business. And when that happens, there's no space for imposter syndrome, because it makes no sense to think I'm not a business, because you know that you are.
Absolutely. And York especially and North Yorkshire are just run by the small businesses. So they're leading the economic recovery, the economic growth here. That strength is from those businesses. So we want them to be open to the opportunity that brings. So we're cancelling imposter syndrome from today, hopefully, with help.
Absolutely. It has. If you have a doubt about whether you are an imposter in the business community, I want you to know that you're not. And that thought has no information in it at all. It's not of any help at all. It's you are most definitely a business.
And you should know that every other business owner has thought that as well. They just don't tell each other.
For sure. Me included. I used to think that too. And I used to not go to particular networks because I didn't think I was a business, or I wasn't professional enough because I thought that meant something else. And I had lots of different ideas. And so we all have it. We've all been there. And it is just about seeing through that and knowing that actually you will have those doubts from time to time, but we can coexist with them and we can not pay attention to them and just go ahead and do it anyway.
I think as well, sometimes speaking about those doubts to other people, to your network, to your business growth manager, giving us a call at the FSB, speaking to peer networks and so on can really help. If you voice that doubt, you realise how silly it maybe is in your head, and it's just being created by yourself. So I would say to businesses, definitely speak to people about your worries and try and overcome them in that way.
Absolutely. One of the things that I do when I do training on imposter syndrome is I get everybody in the room to say, okay, who here has thought that they were an imposter? And everybody puts their hand up. And then we get to share what our particular flavor or idea of imposter syndrome is. And you can almost see people's shoulders like drop like 6 inches because they're like, oh, I'm not the only one. Like everybody thinks this. And that's so true. We all have doubts. We all have fears and worries. And it's about really understanding what the nature of those are so that we can, as I say, kind of coexist with them and not pay so much attention to them. Know that they're not the business boss in your brain, and that we can just move past them.
Great. And you mentioned there just about peer networking. I know you've done a lot of work with your business partner, Philip Bolson, about peer networking and delivered some programs for the LEP, for the Local Enterprise Partnership, to help business owners form those cohorts and get advice from peers. What is the real value of peer networking in your mind?
Oh, I think it's immeasurable. I really do. I think there's such value in bringing together a group of businesses who don't have any game face. They don't have any business face on when they come. They are just human beings who are there to find help for themselves, but to also help the other people around the room. And again, you get that emotional support. So that feeling, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who's staying awake at night, or I'm worried about this, or I don't feel confident about that. And it's a really powerful thing to see when the other businesses step in and just carry that person and help them through whatever, feelings that they've got in that moment. But also there's something about getting people together when somebody's got a challenge or something that they're not sure about, or they don't know what their next step is. When you get a group of people together, it's like the creativity starts. It's like a magic that happens in the room, and the ideas start flowing. And then at the end of that process, the business owner who had the challenge will sit there and go, I know exactly what to do now. Their own clouds have cleared in their mind, if you like, and they know exactly what to do. And they've got the whole group around them, giving them that support in order to carry out whatever action it is that they're going to take. So I'm a big supporter of peer-to-peer and working in groups of businesses, because you get that support that you really need.
Absolutely. And whether that's for a specific sector, like some of our special interest groups at FSB, or whether it's for a specific locality, such as the Business Growth Connect Over Coffee in York and those kind of groups, or the peer networking program that you run, it's really key to get together with other business owners, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just share your experience and what's going on for you right now. I think sometimes we are a little afraid of actually sharing the whole aspect of our business. We kind of have this idea that we need to go and go, oh yes, business is amazing and it's great, and I'm, overflowing with clients and it's all good. And I think sometimes that's a bit of a shame, because often the value is when you have businesses that come together and go, do you know what? I've had a really tough week this week, and it's been really difficult, and I've got this challenge and I don't know what to do about this. And that's where human beings love to help. And you will find the support of your business colleagues will be able to help and advise you, or even just say, do you know what? I found it tough too. Let's go and have a coffee and a natter. And sometimes that's all you need.
Sounds absolutely great, Andrea. And that's exactly the crux of it, isn't it? Reaching out and maybe just having that chat. Now, we know from our research that this imposter syndrome that we've talked about occurs more in women in enterprise than in male business owners. Let's talk a little bit now about women in enterprise, a topic I know you're very passionate about.
I think with women in enterprise, it does stem from that creating a business really to fit around the family. So it feels to them like it's a stopgap. So they're often not 100% into their business, because it's kind of like a filler in until they can, in their minds, go back to work. But of course, a lot of women are very successful at business, and they're creating the business that actually we all want, which is to fit around family life and to find that balance that we're looking for. But again, they don't feel like they have that proper business, because they're always thinking, oh, well, I'll go and get a job soon, or perhaps I should get a job soon, or, the grass is greener, if I have a salary, or if I have that regular income. And so what I find, particularly with women in business, is they don't have the confidence in their own ability to really embrace the fact that they are in business and they are a business owner. And this has longevity, and it can sustain them and their family in a way far more than actually an employed position would do.
So imposter syndrome is the opposite of confidence. So how can small businesses grow their confidence in approaching new markets, new ways of working, things like that? Small businesses often think opportunities are out of reach to them. Do you have some advice for changing that mindset?
Absolutely. And in some ways, it's completely the opposite approach to perhaps what we think it is. We talk about growing confidence, but in actual fact, it's about letting go of all your doubts and insecurities and ideas and fears that you might have. For example, what we've been talking about, the idea that you don't have a proper business, that can be a filter that will mean that you don't go for opportunities and you don't have conversations with people, you don't send that email or, write that article or go on that podcast because you think, well, why would they want me? Why would they want to speak to me? When we start to see, oh, that's a thought that I have in my head, that perhaps actually if I didn't pay attention to that quite so much, what could I be capable of? And we find time and time again that when the people in the business start to let go of their insecure thinking, they start to see that actually it's not helpful, that it doesn't have the information in that they think it has, then they become more confident. They experience more confidence. The confidence that was already there and had been in just the right amount of quantity that they need, but it's just been shrouded and hidden by all of these stories and this narrative that they've been repeating to themselves for years and years.
And just thinking about that and that reluctance to take new opportunities because of lack of confidence or imposter syndrome. Lots of our members tell me that they don't really do networking, or they don't like to go to networking. They're worried about walking into a room alone and so on. What about the value of networking as a small business owner? You run your own business, you go networking, you come to lots of our FSB networking events. And we see the same people there, and we'd love to welcome more new faces. What's your advice for people who are terrified of networking?
It's never as bad as you're going to think it is. I think that's the best advice. I think what I see kind of time and time again, and I did this myself. So, it's not that, I have any kind of special qualities or anything. I used to think in advance about what the networking was going to be like. No one was going to speak to me. They wouldn't understand what I was doing. Why would they do business with me? Da, 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 da. And I'd be replaying what I thought was going to happen in the room before it had even happened. So that meant that when I turned up, everything about me was different. I wouldn't want to speak to people. My whole body language was different because I was so much in my head about what I thought was going to happen. And so if you can, as far as possible, and this is what I learned and the insight that I had, I thought, if I go in there with nothing on my mind, like with no expectation of what's going to happen, I'm just going to be me, the dynamic completely changed. And I was more able to just have conversations with people. And what I say to businesses is, if you were on a bus and you sat next to somebody who was quite friendly, you'd get chatting with them and you'd probably talk about what you did. And networking is no different. You're just getting to know people, and they're getting to know you and your business, and you're getting to know them and their business. And it's so important because, it takes a village to create a business and to grow a business. I know they say that about children and families, but it's true for businesses too. And in my network, I know there are people I can turn to for help and advice. It's not just about selling my product. It's a whole load of different things that you need to grow your business, as well as as those people get to know your business, they do recommend you because they've got to know you and they've got to know your work. And there's nothing like word of mouth recommendation. So networking is just, for me, it's the key to growing your business.
That's really great advice, Andrea. It's really an exciting time for York and North Yorkshire as we see a devolution deal come to our region. You've mentioned the business community around you and your network here in York, where you're based. What do you particularly love about the business community here?
I love it that everyone gets so excited. Whenever I talk to people about the business in York, they're full of positivity for the future. And I know, at the moment, the news may not be quite so positive, but there's such an energy in York, and that goes across everywhere, whether I'm talking to York City Council or the LEP or whoever, other businesses, business owners, the FSB. We're all so passionate about what we do and helping small businesses grow and support the business community. And I think that's really special, and I think it's really special for York.
I think so too. I think the size of the business community here is just right for that friendly welcome and for everyone to collaborate and work together, which is so exciting and something we definitely promote at FSB. You're an FSB volunteer. You're an elected area lead, which sounds very grand. But, it's a real help to our staff team. Obviously, FSB is a member-led organisation and we love to use our member volunteers and both elected and on an ad hoc basis. How has being of an FSB really sort of enriched your business life, or how has it been helpful for you personally?
Oh, well, the list is endless, I think. How long have you got? I think for me, it has been a fantastic support. The FSB has been an amazing support for me. From all the advice that you get from the various different helplines. I think, my background was law before I started my business, and I've been so impressed with some of the advice that I've been given by the FSB, and I certainly wouldn't be without it. I think the other thing that I'm very passionate about is, representing small businesses and ensuring that the business voice is heard, and particularly for women in business, to make sure that voice is properly shared and that their experiences are shared with people who matter and who can make a difference. And that's always been an important part of my business. And so being part of the FSB and being able to be part of that voice and being connected with people who can really make a difference and sharing the experience, not just my experience, but the experience of the businesses that I come into contact, really adds another dimension to the work that I do that is very important. And just the whole business community. I think the FSB business community is very special. And the networking is very special, and you can make some really good quality connections that can really help your business. And I think that's important too. So those are my three main areas.
Fantastic. Our podcast series is all about smoothing out those bumps and turns of the difficult road of being a small business owner. How do you advise clients to turn challenges into opportunities for their business?
I think we all have dips, and we have curveballs that hit us and they knock us off course, and we don't know how we're really going to right that ship again. And how I advise clients is, when you're in the middle of that and you feel like you're in the middle of the storm, that's okay. There's nothing to fix at that point. You don't have to make the big decisions. Literally just do whatever it takes to get through it, because you will come out the other end and you will have that clarity. You will know what to do. And it's often not until we've been through a really rough patch that then we can reflect and we can take the learning from it. And I often think now, I didn't used to think this way, I hasten to add, but now I quite enjoy those dips because I know something's going to come out of it. Like, I know I'm going to learn something. I'm not going to enjoy learning it at all, and I'm certainly probably not going to embrace it during the time. But there will be a point in the future where I look back and I think, oh yeah, actually, this is what I need to take from that. And we know that, it comes from that more kind of sensible part of our mind, and that gut feeling, and it's really important to follow that. And I think often when we're in those very, very challenging times, we think that our gut feeling has kind of abandoned us and we're like out there on our own, sort of flailing about. But in actual fact, it is still there. And again, it's not until often you've been through it that you think, oh yeah, I was making those little decisions and taking those steps, and I just knew what to do. So it's really having that trust that that it's there and that you will get through, and there will be something you can take forward.
We absolutely believe that small businesses are the most adaptable and flexible people we've ever come across, and FSB support them through that. How can businesses in York and North Yorkshire best access your help and other help that's available? What other help and partners do you recommend?
Well, the best way to get in contact with me is, I'm all on social media like LinkedIn and Facebook and my website, etc. So, and I'm always available to have a chat. I'm more than happy to have a call with a small business who is struggling. I might not be able to help them, but I'd be more than happy to signpost them to somebody that can do. For me, my key kind of places to go to for support, obviously, the City of York growth team, the two growth managers there are absolutely amazing, and they give out absolutely superb advice, and again, fantastic signposters as well. Being on their mailing list and also on the LEP's mailing list is an absolute no-brainer. You have to be on there because that way you will be alerted to any funded opportunity that is going on around the region. So make sure you're on that newsletter, and also obviously the FSB newsletter as well. And that's where I get my main information from, so that I know what's going on in the area.
I think that's really key, isn't it, to be plugged into what's going around in the area outside of your business. It can be easy to look at your business and work in it instead of on it, as the old cliche there. But it's really, really important for you to look outside your business and reach out to those networks, those support. And of course, lots of the support is free and impartial. The help from the LEP Growth Hub, the business growth managers in York that you've mentioned. Thanks so much for your insight, Andrea. It's been amazing to hear all those top tips and your experience as a business owner. I'll finish by asking just one more question, which we're asking all our guests on the series. What's your top tip as a business leader to share with our listeners? Your number one, if you had to give one piece of advice, what would it be to other small business owners and self-employed?
So my top tip all the time is follow your gut. Always follow your gut. It will never, ever fail you. And often I hear business owners and they say, I know what to do, but and my advice would be anything that comes after the but, don't pay attention to, follow the first bit. So if you're starting a sentence or a thought or a conversation with, I know what, follow that, follow what you know, because that is the cleanest way to run your business. It means that you'll stop overthinking, you'll stop all the self-doubt, the worry, the fear. Just follow that intuition, follow that gut feeling.
Thanks so much for joining us, Andrea, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Follow us at FSB North Yorks across our social channels for more business support from your local FSB team, and signposting to our wide range of partners, including funded support programs and free one-to-one local business advisor support across York and North Yorkshire.
FSB. FSB.